We're continuing to factor, but we're going to move forward from the box trick, and we're going to actually go back to GCF. Factoring by pulling out a GCF, it's just that the problems are going to be a little more advanced. The concept of it is still the same, and so what I want to direct your attention to is right here, up here in this first box, and I have AB plus BC, and these are two terms, okay, two things that are being added together, and what I want to show you is a pattern here. So looking at this, do these two sides here, let me change the color, do those two sides have anything in common? Each of these sides, they have something in common? They do, right? They both have a B, okay? So their GCF is B. And so remember, when we're finding the GCF, you may or may not have to do this anymore. That's okay. All you do is you identify what the GCF is. You want to rewrite the problem. And now divide by the GCF. Okay. And so what happens here? The B's cancel out. And so all I'm left with here, let's continue it up here. All I'm left with is just an A plus C. So I put that in a parenthesis and rewrite the GCF at the end. And so that's the idea of what we're doing here, okay? So it's just like what we've been traditionally doing with GCFs, it just looks a little different. So let's go to number 1 and see. So let's start labeling some of the things here. So the first thing I have is X, I'm sorry, is just a plain X, so I'm going to label it on the top A just to help us out. The next thing I have is this parenthesis Y minus Z, so I'm going to label that B. Okay, the next thing I have here is I have a -3. It's a totally different number, so I'm going to label it C. And then look at this, I get to Y minus Z again. And what can we call Y minus Z? What did we call it earlier? We called it B, so I'm going to call it this. Okay, so essentially, if I just got rid of everything here in black, I would have AB minus CB, correct? And so what did we do up here? We pulled out a B, okay? We pulled B out of outside, and what was left, if we pulled out a B, okay, GCF is B, here we go. They cancel. What's left is an A minus C. Okay, so let's just relabel. In my problem, B was Y minus Z. Okay. And then our A was X. And then we had -3 that's left over there. Okay, so all you're doing for this advanced GCF is you're basically just taking the two things in common, or the three things depending on the problem, pulling it on the outside, and then everything that's left over gets in its own parenthesis. So the Y minus Z was in common, so I pulled it out and put it in the front, and all that was left when I did that was an X minus 3, so it gets to be in its own parentheses. Let's look at number 2. So you can either label it A, B, C, B if you want to, or you can do it this way. There is something we're missing though, okay? So if you look at this problem, there's no number or letter that's in front of this second parenthesis right here. So remember, when there's nothing written there, I would highly suggest you put a 1 there, just so that you remember that there's supposed to be a 1 in front of there, because that's going to make a difference in the answer. So remember, what we can do, a fast way of doing this is look what's in the parenthesis, make sure they completely match up. So m plus 4n, yes, that one's good. M plus 4n, they're exactly the same. So what I can do is pull it out to the front. Just write it once because you're pulling it out. So here's A, B, C, and then B again because they're the same thing. Pull out the B, and then write whatever's left over, which is m minus 1. Hopefully you're seeing the pattern of this. They're not so difficult, but let's see. Let's go to a number 3 here. And so it's almost the same, it's just that there's a few more things in here. So there's 3 terms in here. So let's check all of the things that are in front of the parenthesis to make sure we don't have to add any special ones there. So the first parenthesis has a 2U, okay, we're good. Second parenthesis has a V, okay, we're good. Third parenthesis, ooh, no number in there. Okay, so no number means let's write in a 1. Okay, so please check that, because that's going to be the killer for you if you don't remember to put that 1 there when there's a nothing in front of the parenthesis. Okay, and so let's check all the parentheses and make sure they're all exactly the same. So u minus 2v, u minus 2v, oh, u minus 2v, we're good to go. Perfect. Okay, so it's the same idea, so we're going to pull out all the things that are the same. So we have a u minus 2v, and then what's left over? I have a 2u, I have a plus v, and then I have a plus 1. Okay, and that's it. Final answer for that. So if you were doing it by labeling, here's how you could do this by labeling, since there's more things in there. We have A, B, C, we have B again, we have a D, and then we have B again. Okay, so you could go AB plus CB plus DB. Okay, GCF is B. You rewrite the original problem, divide by the GCF, so what I have is I have A plus C plus D left in there with right the GCF on the outside. My B, we said, was U minus 2V, and then A was 2U, C was V, and then D was 1. So that's how you could also get at that answer too. Okay, this first way, if you can see that relationship the first way I did it, that's going to be way quicker for you. Okay, let's go to number 4 and get into the good stuff here. Okay, so for number 4, if I can get this centered here, for number 4, let's check to make sure all the parentheses have a number in front. So I have 5 in front of the first one, and then 3b in front of the second one. Now let's make sure that all of the parentheses are exactly the same. I have a b minus 4, and then I have a 4 minus b. So they don't look exactly the same right now. Let's rewrite the second one so that maybe it looks like the first one, where the b is first. Okay, so right now the b is second in this parenthesis, so let's switch it. So remember, you got to take the sign along with it. So this is a negative b, so if I wanted to write it first, it'd be negative b, and then I have a positive 4. So really what I have is now let's check the parentheses again to double check and make sure that they're the exact same thing. Okay, so right now these parentheses are not the same. Okay, so I'm changing the color because we're going to have to do something cool right now. Okay, these parentheses are not the same right now, so let's see what the difference between them are. I have a positive b and a negative 4 in the first one. Then I have a negative b and a positive 4. So basically they're almost the same. It's just that they're opposite signs. If I did this, if you ever run into a situation with this, take the whole section that has opposite signs. So maybe let's take everything from 3b, including the stuff in front of the parentheses, and multiply a negative 1 through it, through every single thing. Okay, so what that's going to look like is I'm going to have 5b minus 4 is not touched, and then I have a negative 3b. In the parenthesis I have a positive b, and then I have a negative 4. So if you ever run into a situation where they're almost exactly the same, the only thing that's different is that they just are opposite signs, take everything, the parenthesis and even the number in front, and multiply a negative 1 through it, and that will make the signs the same. Now it's easy sailing now here, okay, smooth sailing. So the things that they have in common is b minus 4, so I take that and write that first, and then what's left over is 5 minus 3b. And then there you go, there's that fourth one for you. So let's try one more like that with the changing the negative business, just so that we can be on the same page to help you out here. So let's look at this and make sure that we have a number in front of all of our parentheses. This first parenthesis I have a 3, so we're good. Second one I have a 2, so we're okay, and let's make sure that that looks like a 2, okay? So my number here, I'm making it worse, is a 2. There we go, okay? So now let's double check and make sure that the parentheses are exactly the same. I have a y minus 3 here, Then I have a 3 minus y. Okay, so again, let's rewrite it so that the y is first. Remember to keep the sign. So if y is first, I have a negative y, and then I have a positive 3. Okay, so rewriting the whole problem, I have this. Looking at the parentheses, they're different still, but if you notice, they're just opposite signs. The y's are opposites and the 3's are opposites. So remember what I told you is to pick one of the sides. So let's pick this one, this right side, and take everything, including the thing that's in front of the parenthesis, which is our negative 2, and we're going to multiply a negative 1 to all of it. Okay, so the first term stays 3 times y minus 3, and then I have negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. In the parenthesis, I'm now going to have y minus 3. Okay, so now it looks like one of the regular easy ones. So you take what they have in common and write it first, or write it on the outside, and then whatever's left over is a 3 plus 2. So we write that. And can we reduce this 3 plus 2, or simplify it even more? Oops, I don't know, what am I doing here? Okay, there we go. We got a y minus 3, and then we got a 5 there. Okay, so this is a super problem there. So normally you would think you might box it here, but what you can do with this 5 is you can actually distribute it in one more time just to give me a better answer. And we get 5y minus 15. Okay. So that's probably the most difficult it could get with these problems for today, is just remembering, just getting used to that negative 1 process, and then just in case you might have to do some extra stuff that you should already know how to do with the simplifying 3 plus 2 into 5, or simplifying something and then possibly distributing that thing back into the problem. Okay, so that's it. Write down any questions you guys have, and don't forget to take the quiz.